Yep, COVID ruins everything. It's not going to ruin this. Welcome everybody to the Grand Rapids Business Journal's 40 Under 40 Business Leaders Celebration tonight, here from 20 Monroe Live. I'd like to thank you all for joining. Andrea, what the hell? There's nobody here. Pandemic. Oh. I'd like to thank you all for joining me from wherever you are. And I hope you enjoy this evening's show. My name's Tim Gortzma. I'm editor of the Grand Rapids Business Journal. Tonight is about the 40 emerging business leaders in West Michigan. What they've done, what they're doing, what they hope to do. Tonight we're going to show you their 40-second stories. Each person has 40 seconds to talk about whatever he or she wants to talk about. They're compelling, they're interesting, they're personal, they're poignant. I think you'll enjoy them. Also tonight, we have our distinguished alum, Daniel Williams, CEO and president of WMCAT. Now, I cheated, and I looked at Daniel's presentation beforehand. Sorry, punish me, I don't care. But the thing is, it's really good. It's really inspiring. Each year, the distinguished alum comes back, and he or she tells you guys what they've been doing since they were part of this class, since they were sitting where you are tonight. Daniel's got a great story to tell. He's got a great message to deliver, and I really hope you'll enjoy it. Daniel, let's go ahead and get you started.
Thanks, Tim. And thank you to the Grand Rapids Business Journal for reaching out and asking me to participate as a distinguished alumnus this year. On the other side of 40, you start noticing all these really creative ways that you get called old, all these fun words like experienced and distinguished. So as your distinguished alumnus, I am so happy to share in this night with you energetic and passionate youth. Another thing I've learned in these first 40 years is, and I'm really just barely too old to hang out with you, is that it doesn't get simpler or clearer, and definitely not easier. In fact, I found that the longer I live, the more I experience, the more I understand, the more complex and nuanced and complicated I understand life and the world and truth to be. When I was in my 20s, I came out of school full of energy and passion, driven to work as an educator because I was convinced that education was my generation's greatest civil rights issue, that education was the great equalizer. And while my passion and commitment carried me into a career that was rewarding, meaningful, and I dare say impactful in the communities I served, I realized that education was not the cure-all my young self had hoped it would be. Despite the fact that the schools with which I worked, both here in Grand Rapids and Detroit, were able to beat odds and produce statistics of which we are to this day extremely proud, our children and families still face countless isms, systems, and policies that denied their equitable access to opportunity. Even though we saw unprecedented graduation and post-secondary acceptance rates, our graduates still entered communities in which white high school graduates earn the same as black college graduates. The racial wealth gap is the same, if not worse, than it was before the civil rights legislation of the 60s. In our region, the median household income for white households is just under $70,000 per year, while it is just under $33,000 for black households. And many of the young black and brown girls who grew up into young women within our school walls later began to build their families in communities where infant mortality rates are more than 2.2 times higher for black women in Grand Rapids than white. While I still believe that education is incredibly important and a central player in the fight for equity, 20 years later, I understand that these problems are far more entrenched in history and society and systems than I did in my youth. So I spent the latter half of my 30s working at WMCAT, still fighting for the same things through the lenses of education, art, technology, workforce development, human-centered design, facilitation, and more. And here I am, officially into my 40s, and while the impassioned, exuberant optimism may have waned a bit, my values, conviction, and commitment have not. I recently started reading Caste, The Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson. After reading her Pulitzer Prize-winning work, The Warmth of Other Suns, I was really excited to pick this one up. Early in the book, she outlines a powerful metaphor for our country. She likens America to an old house, With all of its quirks and character, she writes, quote, "Wind, flood, drought, and human upheavals batter a structure that is already fighting whatever flaws were left unattended in the original foundation. When you live in an old house, you may not want to go in the basement after a storm to see what the rains have wrought. Choose not to look, however, at your own peril. The owner of an old house knows that whatever you are ignoring will never go away. Ignorance is no protection from the consequences of inaction. Whatever you are wishing away will gnaw at you until you gather the courage to face what you would rather not see." The floods and fissures of the past 6 months have definitely forced us to go into the basement, to investigate problems that many have ignored, to reckon with the realities we have been putting off for a very long time. As we have made daily decisions during the pandemic related to ensuring there's enough food in the house, patching together childcare so we can work, providing emotional support to our children, and rescheduling events and gatherings, let's remember many of our neighbors have to make decisions like these every day. They've had to navigate complex systems and economic uncertainty daily for generations as they try to provide economic and emotional security for their families. For so many, particularly Black and brown and low-income families, this is not new. Same with the racial uprisings we saw throughout the summer. This weight is not new. These struggles and frustrations and anger are not emergent, but in fact, ever present. Our current reality is the fruit of systems and structures that are intersectional and rooted in hundreds of years of oppression and racial injustice. One of the things I love about this particular group of people is how we all come from, live, and work in different parts of our community. We have representation from many different sectors and spaces here tonight. To extend Wilkerson's metaphor, we spend much of our time in different rooms of this old American house, but we all spend our time in those rooms with other people. We all live and work with other people. When we walk across the creaky floor in our upstairs room, it rattles the ceiling below us. We all do people work, and people work is messy and it's complicated, and all work at its core is people work. Whether it be your team, or your supervisor, the person that will ultimately use the product or service, or the countless people that may be intentionally or unintentionally impacted by the decisions we make, everything always leads back to people. So there is great, heavy, and important work to be done on our old house. This house is our responsibility. As Wilkerson writes, we are the heirs to whatever is right or wrong with it. We did not erect the uneven pillars or joists, but they are ours to deal with now. And any further deterioration is in fact on our hands. We need to go into the basement of our old house together. Let's examine the unstable foundation, the fissures, the cracks together. Let's talk to the people who live above and below and next to us, people who we may not normally see without intention. How can we make this house that may work well for us safer for others? How can we make this house a more welcoming, joyful place? What do we need to fix? What do we need to demolish? Wilkerson says, America is an old house. We can never declare the work over. And she's right, it's heavy, important, and ongoing work. Whether you're in your 20s or 30s, or you're distinguished years old like me, I'm honored to do this work, to renovate this old house alongside each of you. Thank you so much. Congratulations again, and we look forward to hearing your 40-second stories.
My work in economic development is rooted in the idea that business can be used as a force for good. As a kid, my parents were surrounding me with artists and students and ideas through their business that helped hold space for marginalized voices, and I was able to see how that could advance equity in a community. As a leader within the organization Local First and Good for Michigan, I see an economy created to hold space and put people first. And I see my role as the board president of the Garfield Park Neighborhood Association to create seats at the table for residents and neighbors whose voices and lived experience have been historically undervalued.
So what I've learned throughout the process of starting and growing COM 616 is that it's truly about the journey. It's the day-to-day ups and downs, it's the challenges and opportunities that present themselves, and it's the people that you meet along the way that's the real value. And you get to experience this reward every day in your hard work. And so it's this mentality that I take with me as I train and compete in Ironman triathlons. You know, there's so much training that goes involved and there's so many long days, but the value isn't realized at the finish line, it's realized every day in your training. And so this is my approach to business and my community involvement.
I had a choice. What items am I gonna take in this one trash bag and move across the country to flee? As a survivor of domestic violence, I could have honestly let it define me and who I am. Fast forward, it's college graduation day, and I was the first person in my family to get that degree, behavioral analytics and psychology, go Grand Valley. Right after, I was so happy to click on that Craigslist ad and get an internship with a local TV station. This propelled my career and helped to make a multiple business owner out of me. Now I use my voice and GR Now, the platform that I own, to lift up business owners and marginalized communities. The adversity I faced in my life could have made me bitter, but I made a choice, and instead I use it to fuel my mission, to make Grand Rapids the place I love, a place of inclusivity.
I like to share two items that I believe have led to my success. The first is mentors, particularly when I was in college and when I was starting my career. I didn't necessarily have a lot of direction or focus, and so I reached out to people that were experienced, and I asked them for guidance. And what's interesting is that when you reach out to the right people, they're almost instinctively drawn to help you, and they see themselves, younger versions of themselves in you. So they helped me a lot with accountability and setting goals. And then secondly, I would say team. Surrounding yourself with high integrity, driven, long-term thinking people is essential, and especially as you grow your business beyond your own personal ability to manage everything. And so I really can't thank our team enough for their support and their encouragement. And also want to thank the Grand Rapids Business Journal for this award. It's greatly humbling, and I look forward to continuing to invest in the community.
Life is a journey filled with obstacles, challenges, and adversities. There will be times where we may be tempted to give up or to stop. But don't give up. Keep going. Follow your passions and your dreams. I'm grateful for the people who've inspired me, who've encouraged me, and I wouldn't be here without those people. I'm not supposed to be here. Born in a mud hut amidst civil unrest in the Congo, I miraculously survived, and I've been given this opportunity. And I'm passionate about helping others know that everything is possible. Just keep going.
I'll admit it, I'm not good with heights. So a few years back, I find myself at about 3,000 feet, perched on the side of a mountain in Rio. And I do the one thing I'm not supposed to do. I look down, and way below me I see birds flying that are like little dots. The skyscrapers are about this big, and I can't move, so I'm stuck there. And I know I'm not going anywhere, so I reach into my backpack, start making a sandwich. I'm sitting on the side of this mountain eating a sandwich. People are laughing at me. And all of a sudden these two Brazilians come up and they're like, you're going. And they literally put my feet and hands into the handholds, pushed me up to the top of the mountain, and I made it. I'm standing 3,000 plus feet on the tallest mountain in Rio, taking in the view. So the point is, set goals that maybe you feel like you can't reach. Get as far as you can, and maybe help will come from the least expected place.
I grew up with two brothers. I always disliked being told I couldn't do things with them or in general. I dove on the boys' diving team in high school. I always wanted to be a trailblazer and a maverick, and I always challenged the status quo, and I always wanted to be doing big, new, curious things. I have a molecular biology degree and a Spanish language degree, and I own a construction company. I followed my passion, and then I followed it again, and then I followed it again. And it's okay to do that. It's okay to challenge the status quo and believe that you can do whatever your heart desires.
When my family moved to Grand Rapids in 1996, it was before you can buy kimchi at Meijer or hear K-pop on the radio. But we were overwhelmed by this community's curiosity and Midwestern hospitality that helped us adjust to new culture. My appreciation of Grand Rapids only deepened once I interacted with the business community. From my days at Calvin University until now, a handful of mentors who did not all look like me in terms of race, family background, or profession have invested in and mentored me. They've taken the time to connect with me regularly, in person, via phone calls and texts, and have made a meaningful difference on my career. In turn, I am inspired to pay forward their generosity of time to others. Although my parents are back in South Korea, Grand Rapids is my home, and I love being part of a community where giving is at its core.
This question comes from Cam Mulder. What one thing would you do if it would be impossible to fail? There's so many options. I mean, solving world hunger, world peace, all of that kind of stuff. One thing. I think I would look for opportunities to create opportunities for as many people as possible. Creating that option to give everybody around the world in our communities the opportunity to do what they love and what they resonate with, to provide that meaningful work, and being able to succeed in that. And so really enabling others and giving them that choice to do that.
I would say that I am not bossy. I have leadership skills. It's a characteristic I learned from the many strong women in my family who have endured challenges and trials in this life that has built a resilience in them and built resilience in me that I hope to pass on to my daughter and other young women in their personal and professional lives. And living in that authenticity is one of the reasons I chose to work at Metro Health. I used to say I'm lucky in my career, but I'm not. I'm intentional. And I'm grateful that Metro Health allows me to be the kind of leader that serves this community in a way that I find very meaningful.
So my biggest fear in life is regret. I was sitting with my grandfather when I was 20 years old, had a critical decision to make to either drop out of college, pursue my first startup, or continue on the college route. He told me and asked me, what would I regret more? And from that point forward, I dropped out, pursued my first startup, and it changed the entire trajectory of my career and my life for the better. I ended up going back and finishing school, but for everyone that's watching, I would give you the advice of when you're faced with a critical decision, think about what you would regret not doing.
It's humbling to be recognized for your hard work when really any successes I've had are simply a reflection of those who've supported me along the way. So to my mother, thank you for being an amazing example of strength and courage. To my God, who's the source of my strength. To my husband, I love you more than you know. Thank you for everything you do to support me and our family. And finally, to my colleagues in diversity, equity, and inclusion spaces, I see you. What we do matters. I am honored to be among you. And together, we will continue to push West Michigan to be more equitable for all.
Our motto is Stronger Together. We had a successful conversion to a virtual work environment this year where we probably are more connected today than we were in the past. We surrounded and supported our clients and friends of Highlands with more guidance and advice than they ever could have imagined. We developed peer groups with over 160 C-suite members that came together with the sole purpose to help one another out during this pandemic. We developed grstories.org, where we were able to bring the community to 9 amazing nonprofits with over 3 million views from people learning their stories. We added 5 new team members and over 20 new relationships to the Highland family here in Grand Rapids because we are stronger together. We come together as a team, we overcome obstacles as a team, and we win as a team because we are stronger together.
I grew up on the southeast side of Grand Rapids in a single-parent household in an environment that was riddled with violence and gangs. I was on a path of becoming a product of my environment, and at the age of 17, I decided to join the Army National Guard. It was one of the best decisions that I could have made in my life at that time. It has taught me so much, from discipline to time management to different life skills that I currently use throughout my life today. I attended Western Michigan University. I became a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, where I was introduced to mentoring young ladies, which was the vision behind starting Endless Opportunities. I wanted to help our youth transition off to college, be better equipped to become leaders of tomorrow. A quote that I live by is, success is a ladder that cannot be climbed with your hands in your pocket. And with that, I know that I have to put forth the work in anything that I want to do.
I've loved the game of golf before I can even remember. It's a sport that my parents introduced to me at an early age. And I played in high school. As a freshman in high school, my team and I made it to the state finals. And I played horribly. Horribly. I was terribly unprepared. And I remember walking off the golf course with my dad and saying, I refuse to ever feel this way again. That summer, I committed to getting better and preparing myself for the next year. I spent days at the golf course, spent days competing at different golf tournaments across the state and across the country, and I came back prepared. And that next year, my team and I made it to the top 10. It was a great thing and a lesson that has stuck with me and earned me a spot on Michigan State's golf team and prepared me to where I am today. So who knew that the game of golf and a lesson learned on the golf course would be just something so foundational to help me learn about work ethic, dedication, and committing to be the best.
I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the people of the Three Fires, the Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi, who through the generations have tended to this land. I feel so lucky and privileged to not only represent my neighborhood, but the three identities I hold. Being a queer Afro-Latina in this community can be a little bit tricky, but I feel really lucky to be able to support, represent, build deep relationships with the community, and be able to be in this space. So thank you so much for giving me this honor.
This is an incredible honor, and I feel so fortunate to be able to make a living doing something I love with great colleagues in one of the best communities in America. I'm fired up every day to get out of bed, to serve our businesses, and passionate about what we do to create a thriving and prosperous West Michigan for all. I also love that I can incorporate my passion for bacon, dad jokes, and good public policy into that as well. During the pandemic, our business community has risen to the challenge to help our community navigate uncharted waters. When the going gets tough, Grand Rapids gets to work. I'm honored to be an advocate for that business community and excited about what the future holds. No one can do everything, but everyone can do something, and I'm so grateful to have found my something in this community.
"2020 has been rough. We usually have hundreds of participants. Once COVID hit, obviously our numbers just completely fell off. I knew that self-promotion was going to pull through for two reasons, God and our community. Our self-promotion team is so incredible, and I think the best part of it is that we're able to kind of be together and talk to each other about everything, keep pushing through this hard time, and find creative ways to change, to adapt to the situation. You can do it.
This question comes from Mary Sutton. So thank you, Mary. You get one do-over. What would it be? I have to say, I would never do any do-overs. Well, maybe 2020, but in my own life, I feel like I've learned more from the things that didn't go the way I had planned for them to go than the things that did. So I would say there would be no do-overs.
I want to tell you a funny story about something that happened when I was younger, and I'm so thankful it went the way it did. I wanted to play a team sport. I wanted to play soccer in high school, and my mom said to me, well, Rachel, when you're a professional, what are you going to do? Are you going to ask your clients if they want to go play soccer, or are you going to ask them if they want to play golf? Well, sure enough, I ended up playing golf, still play, love playing with my husband and my friends, and that really is parlayed into being such a social person. I love the clients I work with, I love my friends and family, love cooking, big gatherings, so I'm certainly glad that from a young age I chose to play golf instead of soccer.
I come from an athletic background, so I'm very competitive, very dedicated, very relentless towards my goals, and I'm very big on value. Building value, bringing value to the table, whether that's being a father, a husband, a business leader, a community stakeholder, or what have you. And I have a process that you call reverse engineering. That's where you put your biggest visions and goals into the universe, and then you rewind that process back. You create your plan, you build your team, your relationships, and you put the footwork and the groundwork in to make those goals and visions come into manifestation, all while striving to be a humble servant leader.
So in 2011, I found myself in the lowest possible point in my life. And I checked myself into Pine Rest for an entire week to manage my depression and anxiety. One of the things that I learned while I was at Pine Rest is developing a healthy habit, along with medication and therapy. And so I chose running, and I started running for my mental health and wanted to connect with others who were doing the same thing. And for years, I couldn't find a group to connect with, so I figured, why not me? And I started a group myself. It's called Still I Run, Runners for Mental Health Awareness. And I always say running saved my life, and I hope that someday Still I Run can help save the lives of others through running.
Okay, this question is from Aubrey Wilson. And the question is, if you could start a business in any industry except your own, what would it be? I think it would have been in fitness and wellness. I would probably have this really cool studio or facility with healthy meals, local farm to table produce, but also an area for yoga, wellness, meditation, and all types of fitness classes.
I come from a very small conservative town, and I knew immediately that I had to get out. So I moved to Los Angeles and New York City to study at the American Musical Dramatic Academy. I moved back to Michigan and found myself working professionally and now owning my own company. I feel like I grew up a hidden little boy, and now I'm living my life authentically as a proud gay man, passionate about my job and able to inspire others consistently.
My most influential experience was playing Big Ten soccer at Michigan State. It taught me so many lessons that apply in my professional life. Hard work, preparation, teamwork, time management skills, and adapting to the unexpected. And the joy of celebrating wins. I think celebrating good times with your teammates gets you through the bad times and motivates you to keep pushing harder for the next challenge. Sometimes we're fixated on the next challenge that we forget to slow down and celebrate. Today, my soccer field is the courtroom as a trial attorney, and my teammates are my colleagues at Warren and Norcross. I look forward to continuing to put in the hard work with my teammates and kicking some ass, and then celebrating. Congrats to my fellow 40 under 40 recipients, and cheers.
When I look back into my life, I see this pattern around embracing uncertainty. Could have been when I lived abroad in different countries or when I moved to the US. It could have been when I took jobs in industry that I didn't understand. But what fascinates me is that most people think I was able to accomplish these things because I didn't feel fear. And that's so untrue. The truth is that I built courage. And courage is not the lack of fear. Courage is about learning how to face them, how to pass through them no matter what. So face your fears, embrace your uncertainty, and you will see that what's on the other side of that could be something way better than you ever expected.
I think my motto is to love genuinely. My mother taught me to treat the janitor like the CEO, and that has greatly impacted my outlook and motive to be a leader. I ask myself, how far can I help others go? Meet staff and stakeholders at ground level, be uplifting, listen to their needs, be a resource even if it doesn't pertain to my line of work. I find when I help others grow, staff, stakeholders, community members, that's the return on my investment.
It is my hope that I inspire others to have courage, confidence, and compassion, and to be fearless in pursuit of their dreams. I'm thankful for the leadership at my firm and others around me that have given me the strength to grow as a leader. Becoming a mother at the age of 18, I never would have imagined my life today. but I'm thankful for the journey I had because it has shaped me into the woman and leader that I am. Within my role at the firm, I'm able to positively impact the lives of my team, our clients, and our community, and promote growth and innovation. I'm truly grateful for the opportunities that I have, and I hope to continue to inspire others.
This question comes from Renee Rivard. What is the most important quality for a leader to possess amid the COVID-19 pandemic? It's a tough one. I would say the ability to adapt and to think about the future, recognize what the strange situation that we're in, why we're here, and what do we do differently going forward.
It is an honor to receive this award in recognition of my racial and economic equity work. For me, this intersects via the operation of my own law firm, as well as being an equity analyst for local government. For as far back as I can remember, racial justice and equity have been a part of my core beliefs. My parents fondly recall that I was very different from other little girls. I didn't play dress up or dollhouse. I would instead hold court sessions with all of my stuffed animals and right the wrongs of imaginary infractions. Fast forward today, I will continue to fight for racial and economic justice within our community.
I've always loved solving problems. In elementary school, I had the opportunity to use software to solve a really important problem, figuring out a way to bother my brother. I wrote a program on an old laptop that we had that played an ambulance siren sound and printed out that he'd been sent to the hospital. Problem solved. Eventually, Matt became my business partner as we started a company taking care of lawns across the area. Never mind all the issues that we created for our parents having to shuttle us around until I got my license. We were doing meaningful work and making the world just a little bit better place. I'm so thankful to God over the past few years that I've continued to have the opportunity to do meaningful work in the area and make people's lives just a little bit better. I'm especially thankful for my wife, Leslie, and our kids, William and Kristen, and my business partner and friend, Mark Johnson, as well as the rest of our team at Michigan Software Labs. Getting to serve alongside them and the rest of West Michigan is really a privilege that I'm so thankful for.
I've been happy to live in the West Michigan community for the past 10 years. As a young black trauma surgeon, I'm essentially a unicorn. It's not often that you see people that look like me and do what I do, but I'm happy to be a part of the West Michigan community in this capacity. Three of my focuses are God, family, and surgery. Those are the three passions of my life, and I focus on them more than anything else. I'm incredibly honored to be chosen as a member of the Grand Rapids Business Journal 40 Under 40 class, and I look forward to being a part of this community for years to come.
This question comes from Hannah Schultze, and the question is, how will you use your platform to advance justice and equity in the West Michigan business community? That's a really good question. I'm personally involved in mentoring high school students at the Potter's House, which is a private school for students who are from socially disadvantaged households. And a few of my attorney friends and I have been mentoring high school students on a monthly basis. And we are currently living in a time of societal and political tensions. And to make a real difference in the community, I thought it was best to connect with students on an individual level.
Ani, my name is Tanya Gibbs, and I'm a descendant of the Little Traverse Bay Bands of Odawa Indians. And there was a time where I didn't know a whole lot about my tribe's history or about my own culture, but when I went to law school, I knew that I wanted to eventually work for my tribe and for other tribes as well. I was lucky enough to meet somebody my first year of law school who opened the door so I could land a second year clerkship with my tribe for the summer. And it was the strangest thing. My very first day there, I had ran into someone that I'd never met before, and she gave me a big bear hug and said, "Welcome home, sister." And I didn't grow up there and I didn't know who she was, but she was right. I was home, I could feel it in my blood, I could feel it in my soul. Needless to say that it was an amazing experience that summer, and I spent the whole 3-hour drive home after my last day crying like a baby.
So being in this industry is more than just doing hair. As a child, I dealt with low self-esteem. So God put me in an industry where I have to look at myself in the mirror every day. I take this opportunity to encourage my clients to love themselves and love their hair. To me, it's more than just styling hair. You're dealing with the complete package of a person, and it's fragile and it's different, and every client, every personality is different. I'm thankful that they trust me with that, not only with their hair, but with them, you know. Yeah, their thoughts and their things that come up. I mean, we hear everything as stylists, you know.
Something people might not know about me and be surprised to learn is that my family actually emigrated from Czechoslovakia in 1983. My parents were around 25, 26 years old. They came over to America with my two sisters, and I was born shortly thereafter. It's important because when I look at the job I do and look at the opportunities I've been given, it's something that I take as a great blessing that my family was able to do that. I can't imagine at 25, 26, with multiple children, leaving the country and coming to a new place and learning the culture and raising a family. And so I think that's what I take away from my family and the work ethic they've instilled in me.
I wanted to take my 40 seconds to tell you about my personal mission statement. I'm not originally from West Michigan, and traditionally this business community has been about who you know. But I've been fortunate enough to have some amazing mentors who've opened up their networks to me and helped me realize my personal mission. That mission is to help others forge connections, to give them access in the community, to establish themselves as leaders in Grand Rapids, and to be a mentor to others to help them in the way that my mentors have had and continue to have a huge impact on my life. Thank you for this amazing honor. It's been a goal of mine to achieve this before I was 40, so now I need to figure out my next goal. My personal challenge to each of you watching is to open up your own networks and use them to help others and to mentor tomorrow's leaders.
Throughout my entire life, there has been one main thing that connects essentially everything, and that's food. From growing up to being in the kitchen with my grandparents to Fulton Street Farmers Markets in the morning with my mom. Food has always been that constant for me, and not only has it been so much of my personal life, but to really shift and make a career out of it and go to culinary school, become a registered dietitian, incorporate the culinary world with the medical field. All that it comes down to is food, and that is a huge portion of my life, and it's what makes me me and what makes Jenny with the Good Eats.
My purpose is to inspire and encourage individuals to live authentically. I get to do that every day through my company's ACT Photo Media, Naturally ACT, and Wrapped by ACT. You see, as a person who suffers from depression and severe sadness, I think it's important to live our life vulnerably and lead with love and kindness. With photography, I get to show people how beautiful they are. With my lifestyle blog, I get to talk about my depression, show how I'm coming through it, and of course, give a little extra style. And then with my head wrap company, Wrapped by ACT, it allows me to have a little extra expression while showing off some good culture.
Hi to all of you from sunny California. I just moved here recently after spending 8 years in Grand Rapids. I would first like to thank the Grand Rapids Business Journal for this incredible honor. To be inducted in the 2020 40 Under 40 class is an incredible honor. The other 39, congratulations. I know you, I admire you, I look up to you. What an absolute pleasure it was to work alongside of you. You know, this award is a beautiful reminder of what you can accomplish when you work in collaboration and you push communities from the inside out. To be a Latina, to be an immigrant, and to have worked for the advocacy of other Latinos and immigrants has been the absolute highlight of my life. And I wouldn't have been able to do as much as I was able to in the last 4 years without the support of my community and especially my team at the Hispanic Center of Western Michigan.
Okay, this question comes from Brady Mills. You have the power to change one thing about Grand Rapids. What would you change? That's a pretty loaded question. it would probably be related to equity, not just in terms of diversity, but we have all of these amazing communities and opportunities in Grand Rapids, and some people don't have the opportunity and access that others do. But this is such an amazing, thriving community. It's why I moved here and why I've stayed, and I want everyone to have the same opportunities that others have had.
Outside of work, I've been really fortunate to get to work with some incredibly heroic kids, both through the Billy Bear Hug Foundation and Make-A-Wish Michigan. And one story that stands out in particular is Wish Kid Aiden. At the time, he was an 8-year-old battling a rare form of leukemia. And not once did he ever ask, why is this happening to me? In fact, much the opposite. He started raising money for Make-A-Wish before his wish was even granted, and wrote a book for other kids going through treatment so that they, in his words, wouldn't be scared. And I think that as business leaders, there's a lot we can glean from that and their courage in the face of adversity. When things get challenging, are we gonna retreat back and ask, why is this happening to me? Or are we gonna look to pay it forward and ask ourselves, what can I learn from this?
The people that know me really well know that I like to have complete control in every situation. But a couple years ago, I put the words "Live Brave" on the inside of my wrist. And I use that to remind myself that it has been in the circumstances in my life where I have had no control, where I have learned the most about myself. When I have intentionally said yes, when I really wanted to say no, that has generally been when I have found the most success. And so every day, at some point in the day, inevitably, I will look down and I will see these words. And I really try to stop in that moment and ask myself, what have you done today to live brave?
This question comes from John Roberts. As you grow in your leadership, how do you plan to use that to serve the greater Grand Rapids community? Fantastic question from John. As I continue growing in my leadership, I really am focused on culinary medicine, obviously, and it's such a new field that I want to incorporate this food as medicine concept, and we're doing that right now by placing a cafe in East Hills, and we're going to serve the Grand Rapids community by providing this food as medicine concept. And actually, it's the entirely first doctor and dietitian owned cafe in the United States, right here in Grand Rapids.
I am the daughter of 2 immigrants who came to West Michigan after the Vietnam War. I'm the oldest of 6 children. My parents are small business owners who worked very hard to put the 6 of us through college. So I knew when I graduated from law school that I wanted to return to live and work in this community. I would say the best piece of professional advice I ever received was from my mentor, Leslie Lewis, and she said to me that life is very much like a tapestry. Sometimes when you're going through hard times, you don't see the big picture, but everything will happen for a reason. So I resolved to just work hard, be sincere, and give the best in all I do, and see what happens down the road.
Many people have said 2020 is the worst year ever. Well, I'm here to suggest it's the greatest year ever. That's because it's the year we all finally stopped. We stopped our routines, we stopped chasing our tails, and we stopped doing things just because that's the way they've always been done. Instead, we figured out what was important. We spoke out, we gave back, we found solutions to problems we never thought possible, and we had more time than we ever could have imagined. And hopefully, we used some of that time to walk in each other's shoes a little bit. You see, 2020, it's not about hindsight, it's about foresight. It's an opportunity. So let's challenge each other to be the leaders we've been nominated here to be, and let's work together to build back better than things ever were before. That's when we'll find true success.
Thank you, you guys. Thank you for everybody participating tonight in Grand Rapids Business Journal's 40 Under 40 Business Leaders. Daniel, thank you. That message was on point tonight. I really appreciate it. Now is the time. We need people like Daniel. We need the 40 of you to step up, and I very much appreciate it. Man, I hope you guys had a good time tonight. I know we did. Please drive safely. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.